Back with another riveting edition of the Kaufman Corner podcast with you as always, the good doctor, Dr. Rany Jazayerli. I am Soren Petro. We talked some Royals baseball here as the Royals, 6-3 in their last 9. We said it was a pivotal 9 against sub 500 teams. Did they do enough to at least stay in the race? What's wrong with Seth Lugo? How good is Ryan Bergert? Early returns on the other trade deadline acquisitions. Take a look at that. Is Jac Caglianone ready to rejoin the Royals? What about a couple of youngsters, David Shields, Kendry, Chourio? We'll talk about it, plus the 7 games that lie ahead this week. 4 at home against Texas, 3 at Detroit. What makes a successful week there? We're talking about it right here, right now, the Kaufman Corner podcast.
You're listening to the Kaufman Corner podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Royals, breaking down the Royals like no one else can. Kaufman Corner is hosted by Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro. Rany is a co-founder of Baseball Prospectus, author of Rany on the Royals, and a former columnist for Grantland, The Ringer, and The Athletic. Soren is the award-winning afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. Kaufman Corner is proudly brought to you by David Starnes Allstate Insurance, covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff as well. Motorcycle, boat, ATV, you name it, get with Dave and he'll have you covered. Give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. And now, here are your hosts, Rany Jazayerli and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. How about it, Rany? 6-3. Is that good enough? Will you take it at least for right now?
I will take it for right now. I mean, 5-1 was almost a perfect week. They did almost exactly what I hoped that they would do, but that one game that they let get away is just it's another reminder that their margin for error is slipping away rapidly, because they are still 4 games out of a playoff spot, and there are now, I believe, 6 weeks left in the season, maybe 6 to 7 weeks. So they've got to make up basically like 1 game a week, because they're 4 games behind the Yankees, which is actually more like 4.5 games because they lose the tiebreaker there. The good thing is that while they're still 4 full games behind the Yankees, sort of they've eliminated the clutter that had been in the way between them and the final playoff spot. They've moved ahead of the Rangers. They moved ahead of the Rays. They're just a half game behind the Guardians. And so they have a much more clean path to a playoff spot. And while they are still 4 behind the Yankees, they're just 4.5 behind the Red Sox. They're just 5 behind the Mariners. And I do think this is relevant. They're just 6 behind the Astros, which basically means they just need one of those 4 teams to go into a slump and be reasonably hot the rest of the way. Like the problem.
That's actually inaccurate, but go ahead with.
Well, I was going to say before, the concern was that if they, they finished, they have 38 games left. If they had finished, let's say 24-14 previously, it's possible that they could have gone 24-14 and one of the other teams, that was right with them. The Rangers go 25-13 or whatever and steal a playoff spot, even though the Royals got hot. But now, if they get hot enough to catch the teams in front of them, it's unlikely they will be caught from behind. Not impossible, but unlikely they'll be caught from behind. So there's at least a path. Their playoff odds were around 7% when we last talked. They are 12% according to Fangraphs at this moment. I think that is reasonable. I think, again, the one game they lost.
Well, it's reasonable. It's reasonable, but if you're going to gain 5% a week, you're going to fall far, far short. Okay, so that's like, yes, it's an improvement. But I listen. I said 6-3 is a bare minimum, 7-2, and 8-1 to be really what you want. And the one thing they did do was pass somebody.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right,
They've
exactly.
gotten no closer. They continue. They're trade that. Let's be clear when we look at these trade deadline moves. All right, when we talk about were they effective or not, they are no closer. Right, they are still 4 games away. They have passed one of the teams, and it really is like 2 tasks that you have. You have to pass X number of teams, and you have to make up the ground. They're not making up the ground, but they did finally pass somebody.
Right.
Okay, so 3 has become 2 that they need to get by. And as you said, the Rangers are going to have an opportunity to go head to head. They're also getting a little bit of breathing room, being up a game and a half on the Rangers and 2.5 on the Rays. That's nice. Even the Angels were creeping up there. I think we're a game back at one point. So
Right.
yes, I agree that is more comfortable, but really, frankly, it's irrelevant because it's about what you have to get in front of. It's not about a margin of separation. I mean, it makes us feel better, but mathematically, it means nothing. Right? Like you've still got to get to where you got to get to. So I'm going to tell you, like, it kept them in the race, but 12% now is it's really irrelevant. They need to really get hot. And I think we know that. And we know that the best way to get hot is to beat up on the crappy teams. Right. And I'll go another step further. If you take a look have you taken a look at the Yankee schedule?
Not recently, no.
Well, don't, because it'll make you cry. All right. I mean, their schedule is shockingly, like, everyone's talking about how bad they are. Here's my prediction. Before it's all said and done, everyone's going to be talking about how great the Yankees are, because what they have left is going to make them look really, really good. Right now, they have next, what'll Monday be, the 18th? They have at the Rays for 2, versus the Red Sox for 4, then versus the Nationals for 3, versus the White Sox for 4. That's how they finish up the month of August. Oh, but September it'll tighten up, right? Well, at the Astros versus the Jays versus the Tigers. Then it's at Red Sox, at Twins, 3, they're rolling over, at Orioles for 4, versus the White Sox for 3, and versus the Orioles for 3. I mean, unless we think the Twins are really going to stay in, playing this gritty, tough baseball, which I don't think we do. They seem to just do it against the Royals. That is a cakewalk. I mean, there are tough teams in there, but the Royals have those tough teams. They don't have the quantity of games against teams that figure to be just dead roadkill like the Yankees do. So there's been this feeling, well, the Yankees aren't playing very well. So, yeah, well, the Royals didn't play well in June. The Yankees skid happened later when Aaron Judge was down. Aaron Judge is back. I think the idea that the Yankees are just going to roll over is incorrect, or that they were dead. I think that's incorrect. However, I do think you make a good point when you talk about the other teams, that the Red Sox and the Mariners and the Astros, I think one of those teams may crash the party of falling apart.
Right. And that's what you're hoping for.
I don't
just
think it'll be
one of those teams falls off. Just one of those teams collapses. All right? I've mentioned the Astros in part because it's not entirely clear how they've been as good as they have been all season anyway, but also like their schedule, like they just lost 2 out of 3 to the Orioles. They got crushed today. They go to Detroit next for 3, then at Baltimore for 4. Then they have a really easy stretch. They play the Rockies. There's a guaranteed wins, and the Angels. But then it's Yankees, at Rangers, at Blue Jays, at Braves, who are pretty feisty right now, Rangers, Mariners. And then they finish like the Royals do with the A's and the Angels, where they just flip-flop. But that is a brutal 3-week stretch for them. So, like, again, only one of these teams needs to finish like 17-21 for the Royals. If they have to play 600 ball the rest of the way. But if they do, there is a path for them to move ahead of somebody. You just hope those teams kind of beat up on each other and the Royals can sort of, drive between the wreckage and find a way into third place, because they just have to be in third place. There's many different pathways to get to the playoffs
now. Yeah. Rob says, laugh out loud. Serena was over June 15th. It's 2 months later and they're still in the race. It ain't just about the Yanks. The other teams are only a game or game and a half ahead of the Yankees. Yeah, I think we just covered about all the other teams. So I'm not sure what that part is, but over June 15th, I stand by that. I do not think the team, and that's my whole point, I do not think the team is good enough to do what they are being tasked to do with the injuries that they've had all year and continue to have. I will stand by it. And if somehow you think a playoff season has occurred because the Royals are 4 games out on August the 18th, I can't. I'm not talking about reality here. Like, they're 4 out. Like, are they in the race? Yes, I will call it a successful season, and I've said that because you follow up a playoff year, an unexpected playoff year, with what they're doing right now. Yes, I think it's been a successful season. Like, contending teams don't go to the playoffs every year. We've chronicled that time and time again, right? But we're talking about, are they good enough to get there? You're in the get it right business, and they didn't squander. The reason I think I'm not sitting here telling you this is awful is they didn't squander any major resources in the additions they made. And it looks like, which we'll get to later, they have stolen yet another top shelf arm, right? Or at least stolen an arm with a lot of possibilities and then finished off his development with their coaching staff. We'll get to Ryan Bergert in a minute. But I stand by what I said. Right now, they're not good enough. And I said that on June 15th, that it is still proven to be true. They have yet to reach a playoff spot since then. That's not good enough.
And I mean, look, if we are in the business of moral victories, I think this season could absolutely be a moral victory. If the Royals finish, 83-79 and finish 2 or 3 games out of a playoff spot, and to be clear, that is, I think, the most likely scenario now, right? Like, the most likely outcome of the season is that the Royals will fall just short. It will be a valiant effort. They will in no way, shape, or form have embarrassed themselves after a remarkable season last year. To improve by 30 games from one year to the next and to fall back like 4 or 5 is a hell of an accomplishment. Like, that is much better than the historic norm. And you can certainly hold your head up high as a Royals fan if they finish above 500 and a couple of games out of a playoff spot. And historically speaking, as a Royals fan, one of the strange side effects, you call it a fringe benefit, of being such a crappy team for such long stretches is there are very few instances in all of Royals history where they fell just short of a playoff spot. I mean, if you think about all the different seasons, they either made the playoffs by the skin of their teeth, like last year, like 2014, or they finished 40 games out, right? Or, even you go back to like the 70s before they started winning the division, there were only 4 playoff teams, even into the 80s. So you could have a decent season and finish 15 games out because there was only one team in your division making the playoffs. In their entire franchise history, I really only think of one season where you look back and say, if only they had won this game, or this one or two games may have cost the Royals a playoff spot. Do you know which year that is? I'll give you a couple of other seasons. Everyone, if you look at the standings, in 1987, they finished 2 games behind the Twins. The Twins won 85 games. That was, and then famously went on to win the World Series. They were the worst team ever to win a World Series at that point. But the thing is, the Royals were actually 5 games out with 3 games to go. And then they played the Twins to finish the season, and the Twins rested everybody and we swept them. So, I mean, that, to me, there was never really a realistic possibility of catching them there. So the only season that actually the Royals, I think you could go back and say, if only something very small changed, they make the playoffs, is actually 1982. They won 90 games. The Angels won the division. They finished 3 games out. But what happened was Fred Lynn made a game-saving catch in September in a game against the Royals that flipped one game between the two teams. And if the Royals had won that game, they would have been tied going into the final day of the season instead of being 2 games out and the last game not meaning anything. Literally, that's the only season I can think of where they missed the playoffs, and you look back and you rue the day that this one play that happened that turned the season. That's the only play that I can think of. There is a chance this will be that year. I mean, you think about what's just happened now. This year, this week, they lost when Seth Lugo gave up 7 runs. They fell behind early in a game. They scored 7 runs and lost. We talked last Sunday about last Sunday's game where they lost a game where they had the lead in the 8th inning and John Raved dove for a ball he shouldn't have. Like, there's the chance that they missed the playoffs by one game. They've never missed the playoffs by one game. All right, that could be this year, and we'll have to reckon with that. Even as we say, they had a really, good season, all things considered. But as long as they've still got a chance and they're still breathing, they cannot afford to let games slip away. Today was a good one because they were down late in the game. They were being no hit going into the 6th inning. And then, the White Sox did what the White Sox do, and the Royals took advantage. And that's great. And they got to keep doing that. But they've got to start doing that against teams that are not the White Sox or the Nationals, teams that are actually competitive and pull games out late that they haven't been winning lately.
I do think that they're a better baseball team now. I think there are a lot of things that are coming together. Ryan Bergert's one of them, replacing some of the pitching that they lost. That's an important part of the equation. But, Texas is going to be tougher unless they've fallen apart. Let's hope they have, right? They had a tough one here this last series. But then 3 at Detroit, and Detroit's playing for something. That's going to be a bear. I mean, I think you're thinking 3-1 against Texas and 1-2 against Detroit. In that case, now I'll have to look at what the pitching is as we get a little bit closer, but it might be that the pitching falls their way, and you feel like, oh no, they can't go 2-1. But it's going to take something like that. It's going to take like a 5-2 week somewhere against teams that they're competing with too would help. And the ones that they're chasing, that's the other thing is like they have tough games, but the games of teams that they're fighting with, there's 4 at Cleveland, 3 at home against Seattle, and that's really it. Texas looked good until you put them in their rear view mirror, right? Like, it's like, oh, they got 4 with Texas. Well, now those are almost games like, oh, damn, we got to do that just to keep them down. It's a whole different view when it's like, those are the guys we're chasing. Let's go get them. And they really, there's none left with Boston if you want to talk about them. There's none left with Houston if you want to talk about them. There's none left with the Yankees, right? There's only 4 at Cleveland, and 3 versus Seattle as far as being able to make up those games head to head.
Right. That Seattle series is, I think, very clearly the most important. Like, to look at it on August 17th, that's the most important series remaining.
Over Cleveland, over 4 with Cleveland?
I think so, because Seattle's a team they absolutely have to move ahead of. Right. And right now they are, 5 games, 4.5.
How is Seattle any different than Cleveland?
Well, Cleveland's half a game. I know. My point is, if the Royals don't get hot, or if they get hot, my hope is they can catch Cleveland, who's a half game ahead of them. Whereas Seattle, they have to get hot and hope that Seattle doesn't, continue to play good ball. Plus, that 3-game series, very importantly, will determine the tiebreaker between the two teams. Because right now they are 2-2 head to head, and that's a 3-game series. And that series is in Kansas City, so that's very important. Whoever wins 2 out of 3 in that series doesn't just win one, doesn't get a 1-game bump. They get really a 1.5 game bump, because the Royals already lose the tiebreaker to the Yankees. They lose it to the Red Sox. They are 3-3 against the Astros. So then we have to look at like intra-division record, and I can't even begin to predict how that's going to work out. But Seattle's the one team where they have the ability to get ahead on the tiebreaker, and also make up. If they win 2 out of 3, they'll make up a game, which they have to do in that 3-game series, plus pick up the tiebreaker. So to me, that's the most important series. But yes, obviously 4 against Cleveland. You hope that you can just split that game. That series is on the road. So as long as you don't lose 3 out of 4 there, you'll be in pretty good shape against Cleveland.
We'll take a quick break. You'll hear from our friends at David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Then we'll talk about what's wrong with Seth Lugo, what's right with Ryan Bergert. David Starnes Allstate Insurance, serving the Kansas City area and all throughout the Midwest. With David Starnes Allstate, it's not just about fender benders. Beyond traditional safeguards, enjoy perks like roadside assistance for unexpected breakdowns, transportation expense coverage when your car is in the shop, auto replacement protection to keep you on the road in style, and much more. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, serving KC for more than 40 years, voted Kansas City's #1 accident lawyers, helping people with serious injuries from car accidents, work accidents, falls, and other personal injuries. Northland Injury Law doesn't get paid unless they get money for their client. Don't wait, get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. That's HURT to 22222, or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. The choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. All right, let's talk about Seth Lugo. What is wrong with Seth Lugo? I think I know. You're all excited about this one. I think I know exactly where you're going.
I mean, I don't know if I don't know why you're excited. I'm the opposite of excited.
Well, not excited about the results, but I think you put your finger on it because I think I put my finger on it.
I mean, look, I can speculate, and I have some ideas as to what's going on here.
Well, if you want to float theories, that's fine. If you want me to tell you what the deal is, I can do that.
Well, before we get to what is wrong with him, I just want to emphasize something is wrong with him, because okay, guy has a bad start, whatever. When a guy has a bad start over and over, and he's never had a track record of doing that, I feel like questions should be raised. And I just feel like I'm not seeing those questions being raised in the media. Maybe on radio, but like directly to Seth Lugo, to the Royals. What is going on with Seth Lugo? It's like there's this idea, he just hit a rough patch. And I just want to go over just how rough a patch this is. Seth Lugo has walked more batters than he has struck out in each of his last 3 starts. Right? He's made 3 starts in August. August 3rd, he walked 4 batters and struck out 3. On August 8th, he walked 2 batters and struck out 1. On August 13th, his most recent outing, he walked 4 batters and struck out 2. Since moving to the rotation in 2023, so we're going the year before he joined the Royals, so including the year he was a starter in San Diego until this 3-start stretch. Do you know how many times Seth Lugo walked more batters than he struck out in a start? And this is out of 79 starts that he made. Huh? You've done the math. Yeah, you've done the numbers.
I just took a likely guess at
2.
I'm not bad at the deductive reasoning. I'm really not that bright, but I can deduce.
You are correct. 1 on June 12th of this year, and then 1 in September of 2023 with San Diego. Like all of last year, he did not have a single start where he walked more batters than he struck out. He's now done it 3 starts, more starts in the last 3 than he had in the previous 79. On top of that, his average fastball velocity in his most recent start on the 13th was the lowest average fastball velocity of any start he has made in those 3 seasons. Since he moved back to the rotation, this was the lowest average fastball velocity. The start before his fastball was about a mile an hour more than it was this last time. It was close to his season average, a little bit below, but I was, that's something I always monitor. Is a very simple, very basic, but a very effective screening tool for a guy's overall health, right? The fastball being average, not having an effect doesn't mean he's not hurt. But if his fastball is being affected, that's a very strong indication there's something wrong. This last start, he threw slower than he's thrown in 3 years. He's had the worst stretch in 3 years. Something is up.
Okay, so you said the velocity check it's a good screening. It's like having your moles checked.
Yeah, in my field, yes, the moles or blood pressure. It's like normal blood pressure doesn't mean you're healthy, but if your blood pressure is 200 over 120, you have a problem.
Yes.
And if your fastball is 2 miles an hour below, the average that it has been, that is a big red flag.
Okay,
you combine that with bad performance, and that's 2 red flags.
So you're missing the obvious. You ready?
Okay.
Yes and no. It's going to be deeper than what I'm going to tell you. Let me ask you this. Is an 832 OPS good for hitters?
Yes.
Is an 818 OPS good for hitters? Play along. Is a 568 OPS good for hitters?
No.
Okay. 832. That's what hitters OPS against Seth Lugo when Salvador Perez catches him. 818 is what they OPS against Seth Lugo when Luke Maile catches him. When Freddie Fermin catches Seth Lugo, it's 568. Now, this is not here and all of the story. There's no doubt about it, because the velocity thing is real, right? Like, that is a real cause for concern. Hopefully it's dead arm. Hopefully it's just wear and tear. Hopefully it's 100 freaking degrees. Okay. It's ridiculous, right? I did some moving on the 100-degree Friday, and it sucked. It was miserable, right? Vinny Pasquantino left the game because of heat stroke illness, right, or symptoms. I don't want to make it more than it was because he was back in there the next day, but because of symptoms, he left the game. I'd like to believe that that's part of it. That's just worn him down. But I do think we have to conclude there that he really liked throwing to Freddie for me.
I'd like to think that's what it was.
I
But
think it's at
going
least
to
part of it, don't you?
Well, let me ask you this. Is a 616 OPS better than a 658 OPS if you are a hitter?
No.
Right. The 616 is lower. 616 was hitters OPS with Salvador Perez last year when Seth Lugo pitched. 658 was Freddie Fermin. And that was in a large sample size. He threw 120 innings to Salvi and 87 to Freddie Fermin. He actually had a better OPS for him, a worse for the hitters,
right,
with Salvi last year.
Well, I think
we were
it's talking about this year, though.
Yeah, I think it's just sample size. Like
I
breakdown by catchers.
I don't. Wait a minute. Hold on. 658 is still a good performance for the pitcher.
But I'm just saying, Salvi
and Freddie Fermin had a good performance this year. In fact, an even better one. Salvador Perez's blew up.
Right, but my point is, if that is because of the catcher,
and the sample size on innings is the same this year as last year.
Well, I mean,
one's no more valuable than the other for sure.
I'm just saying, I don't think those kinds of splits do not have the consistency from season to season. It's like batting average with runners in scoring position. They are real. Do they measure a real skill? Debatable, because if they did, you would see consistency from season to season, and you don't. And I just think that there's more to it than that. I wish that's all it is, but again, the velocity is down, and I think that it's hopefully a dead arm. Like I said, I hope it's a temporary thing.
I think you're just pissed that I came up with the good numbers. That's what I think. I'm gonna be honest with you. I understand, and I want to be clear. I said this is not all. I joked around about it, but I said this is not all of it. It's always many things. But I do think if you asked him which guy he wants to throw to, he'd say Freddie Fermin. I mean, you mentioned it, 658 last year. Well, it's 568 to Freddie Fermin. Put the two of those together, you're going to get roughly 600. And Salvador Perez this year is 832 and 616. You're going to get roughly 716. So I mean, it's still 100 points on a twice the sample size. So, like, I'm with you. I don't think it's the end all be all, but I think if you said, hey, which catcher does this guy prefer to throw to? It's Freddie Fermin. And we watched the Atlanta Braves carry some absolutely no-hit catchers for years to be the tandem with Greg Maddux. For years, they did it. They thought it was important. They believed in it. I'm not saying, and you might be like, well, modern analytics show that they were complete morons.
No, I mean, look, we absolutely know framing is a very real skill, and Freddie Fermin is better at framing than Salvador Perez. I have no doubt. Over the course of a season, there's real value there, but it's a value on the range of maybe 10 runs in a season, not like what you're describing. A game over a full season, yes, but that's
for just we're talking about one entity. It's one game. That's very meaningful.
It's a real skill, but the discrepancy between Fermin and Salvi this year, that's like 5 or 6 games. But the reality is last year, Salvi was a game better. That's what I'm saying. On average, I think Freddie Fermin, yes, is better. It's not enough to explain what we're seeing from Seth Lugo. That's my point. Like, if you're going to see those differences on the margin, what's happened to Seth Lugo over the last 3 and really going back even, last 5 or 6 starts, it's not marginal. That's my point. It's too much of a down, of a decline to be explained by just a catcher that he's less comfortable with.
I agree, and like I said, that's what I opened with. It's not, but I think it is. I think it's contributed to it.
And maybe it's not helping. Maybe, yeah. I'll say that.
Why else do teams give guys personal catchers unless they think there's something to it?
Well, it's interesting. I actually, even though we know more about framing and the value of it now, and somebody like, I don't know, Martin Maldonado, who had a long career, talk about, won a World Series with the Astros, kind of the same idea. It's interesting because Greg Maddux was famous. When I think of the term personal catcher, Greg Maddux is the guy who immediately comes to mind.
Yes.
But I feel like teams don't actually assign catchers to specific starters anymore. It seems like that comfort factor is more universal, and it stems from a catcher's ability to steal strikes for all pitchers. I don't feel like you see a lot of catchers who are famous for working with only certain starting pitchers.
I agree. They have gotten away from it, but I do think that there's still more than just the framing. It could be that, like, I don't want to shake a guy off 3 times. I want a guy who's in the same sync. He has the same approach to me. I mean, I think there is a comfort level there. I think you would agree with that. That comfort is part of it, right?
Part of it, but I think only a small part of it, and a small part of explaining this.
Okay. Ryan Bergert, explain his success.
Well, I mean, we talked about him last time, and I was quite optimistic. And he's certainly done nothing to dampen my enthusiasm for him, including today. And he gave up 2 runs, 1 was unearned, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. Like the performance he was showing in San Diego in a very small sample size before he got traded away is continued. And that in itself is impressive, right? Because like he could have very easily regressed to, a pitcher who just called up from the minor leagues, like he was like 6 weeks ago. And instead he's continued to pitch well. If anything, I think his command has been quite a bit better. He's walked 5 batters now in 17 innings with the Royals, after walking a batter every other inning in San Diego. So his command has gotten better. But we broke down last week, I talked about his changeup and the fact that he was getting less spin on it, which was giving it more drop, which was making it more effective. And I thought that was at least part of the story, although only part, because he only throws the changeup like not even 10% of the time, right? It was clearly his third, if not fourth pitch. But it was a pitch that did something for him that no other pitch does in terms of the way it moved, the way it had arm side run. But I want to bring up a really, really interesting article that ran at Fangraphs on Monday. I'll give you the very tantalizing headline, which certainly drew me to the article, which is this: in at least one respect, Ryan Bergert looks like an ace. You want to get my attention? Yeah, compare the pitcher the Royals just acquired, Cole Ragans style, and say he, quote, looks like an ace. I will read this article. Written by a guy named Michael Rosen, and it's a very, very interesting article. Interesting enough that I'm not sure I can do it justice because I'm not sure I completely understand everything he's saying in the article, but I will try to break it down as best I can. So the point he makes here, Bergert, his velocity is not elite, right? He's averaging around 93.5 miles an hour in terms of his fastball velocity. And we've discussed this, his fastball is unusual because he gets more ride on it. It drops less than your typical fastball. His four-seam fastball rises relative to the average starting pitcher, or they call carry sometimes. In fact, he has, here's the quote: Bergert gets nearly 19 inches of induced vertical break on his heater, 9th most among starters with at least 250 fastball. So this year, he's ranks 9th in terms of is how much carry he gets on his fastball. What's interesting is the guy right in front of him, Bailey Falter, which I thought was also interesting.
I know.
The Royals have a type. And the fact that, they're acquired, they definitely have a type and a belief that a rising fastball it's not valuable in and of itself, but it is sort of the foundation of a repertoire. You can work off the fastball that carries because you can find many different pitches to pair with it that sink, right? You always hear on broadcast,
or they think it's easier to teach the sink.
Right, exactly. Yes,
Take
that's somebody, because you have multiple options. You could throw a sinker, you could throw a slider, a sweeper, a curveball, a changeup. They all, on some level, they all drop relative to any fastball. So if you have a fastball that rises more than the average fastball, it's going to make that contrast larger. We hear announcers talking about changing the eye level, right? You want a fastball that goes up because everything else goes down. And if you can find a pitch that goes down to pair with it, that's going to make the fastball that goes up more effective. So that in and of itself, we knew that part. What I thought was he made a very interesting point that I did not know, which is, Bergert has an average velocity fastball with good carry. It's not super elite, but it's a good fastball. It's something you can build off of. What makes him unusual is that he pairs that fastball with a sweeper that gets an unusual amount of side spin or horizontal spin. Right? He's got the fastball that carries up. He's got a sweeper that goes sideways more than the average pitcher's sweeper or slider that they throw. It's not by a huge amount, but what is unusual, and this is the part that I'm hoping I understand so I can explain it. It is rare to have a pitcher that has both of those pitches in their repertoire at the same time. Lots of pitchers throw a rising fastball. Lots of pitchers throw a sweeper that goes side to side. But very few pitchers can do both because the arm motion that you need to get the backspin on a rising fastball, the way you turn your arm, it's not even about hand placement. It's more about the arm and the way the arm comes through. Here I'm trying to do a video motion here that if you're not watching, just it's me throwing a pitch, an imaginary fastball.
And look at that delivery. It's hard to believe.
It's impeccable. Yeah, I don't know how I didn't make it. But the point is, you throw a rising fastball, your arm has to turn a certain way. To throw a sweeper, it's difficult to keep your arm in the exact same motion without cutting the velocity on that pitch by a significant amount and tipping it off. And what is unusual is that he's able to keep the velocity gap between his sweeper and his fastball relatively close to average, even though he throws these two pitches that pitchers rarely combine together. Let me give you the quote here. Even with pronator traits, a fastball with high spin efficiency and significant total movement, he can get to a sweeper shape with minimal velocity sacrifice. The table below shows the unusual nature. He measured the velocity differential between a sweeper and a fastball for all fastball pitchers whose fastballs carry. Of the 27 pitchers who do, only 3 had a smaller gap in velocity between their four-seam fastball and their sweepers. In other words, the difference between his fastball and his sweeper in terms of velocity is less than almost all other pitchers who throw both. Of the 3 that have a similar velocity differential, one of them is Kris Bubic. Again, the Royals have a type, and I thought that was very interesting because, for all we talk about, like how Noah Cameron, he's a finesse pitcher. He's average fastball velocity. He's only 92.3, which in modern world makes him finesse. Do you realize Noah Cameron's average fastball velocity this year is actually higher than Kris Bubic's? Kris is at 92.1, but we never talk about him as a finesse guy because his strikeout total. You look at the strikeout totals, and he strikes out a batter an inning, and Noah Cameron doesn't. Well, how the heck is Kris Bubic getting so many strikeouts with a fastball that's only 92? Yeah, he's left-handed, so is Noah Cameron. It's because of stuff like this. It's because the velocity plays up more because he's pairing it with another pitch, which is hard to tell from this fastball, but moves very, very differently. And that's what Ryan Bergert is doing with these two pitches, and that's why he's been effective, but also it means that if that changeup is real, that new kick change, even if he's only throwing it 10% of the time, and that puts a third pitch with a completely different movement, a plot than the other two, if that puts that pitch in the mind of a hitter, he suddenly now got a very, very interesting 3-pitch arsenal that plays very well. All 3 pitches play very well off of each other. And the sum of the total is the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah. The one thing I would say is Kris Bubic is hurt, right? They've got a number of shoulder injuries, is what they're asking them to do and the way they're making him, whether it's, and I have to think pronate versus supinate. Most people would know that from their feet and how they walk, whether their heels go in or they go out. I too am doing, but much less effective hand gestures for those that are live with us on the screen.
It's the medical degree, Soren.
Yeah, it clearly is, and I absolutely don't have that. But I wonder if some of that, because the Rays have a lot of injuries, is like, hey, we will do anything to make you wicked. How long you're going to last, I don't know. Right? Like this could be part of it. As to why
it could be. It could be. I'm hoping it's just a coincidence, but yes, that is absolutely something we are going to be monitoring for a long time to come. But again,
because the other thing you didn't cover that the article talked about is that he had moved his arm slot even back in San Diego.
Right. Some of this had started there.
If I could do another from 3/4 to more over the top.
He's going over the top. Right.
Which is so the transition kind of started back in San Diego, and then the Royals have taken it to another level, getting here. But, when you start going from another slot, I mean, I think there's kind of a tendency, wouldn't you say, as a doctor? I mean, not that you were a, what is it? It's not physiology, biomechanics.
Okay.
Yeah. You kind of throw naturally in the slot that's right. I mean, you start moving it around.
That it definitely seems to be that way, right? Every pitcher has sort of a natural motion, and you develop that as a child, and that's the motion that puts the least strain on your shoulder. And that is the question here: is you're putting more strain on your shoulder. If that leads to more injuries, but makes you effective in the first place, is that a trade-off worth making? I think in the big picture, I think the answer is yes, and I think most pitchers would agree that if it makes them, they would rather be effective and then hurt than ineffective all along. Effective and hurt, they'll at least get paid. They'll be in the major leagues. You get some glory, and you always can come back from an injury. And healthcare, orthopedic care, surgical techniques continue to improve over time. But if you're not effective enough to make it, it doesn't matter how healthy your arm is. Somebody's about to take some strays here. Jordan Lyles never really had any arm problems in his career. Okay. But who cares? So sorry. He was just standing there. It was a drive-by.
Calling back one of the hits. We're playing the hits tonight.
That's right. But so, I think Ryan Bergert would rather be more effective and take his chances on an injury. And again, we don't know even that is the case. But it's something we are definitely watching. So yes, he has. I think the end of the article goes with this. This year, talking about Bergert, he's hiked up that release point, like you mentioned, moved further down the mound, get a little more extension, and added backspin to his fastball. The adaptability is auspicious. If Bergert can develop his changeup, add a slow curveball, or start locating his heater above the zone rather than on the outer edge, he might start to approach the point where he looks like a very good starting pitcher. At the very least, the fastball sweeper combo is a fine place to start and could perhaps be the blueprint for him developing into an ace.
Yeah.
So that's it's promising. I think we've talked about this. We used to when we first got him, we were thinking this guy, it's probably a number 4 starter. Now we were talking about him being a number 3. To me, this definitely fits with him being you can absolutely project a number 3 here if this is for real, and dream on maybe him being a number 2.
Yeah. And I'll even say we talked about some of the stuff metrics, said he was better than what some of what people were writing when they're saying 4th or 5th starter. Stuff was over 100 in a lot of different categories. So 100 being average, and he was above average in a lot of different categories. We'll take a break. Go ahead. You had something else?
I was going to say I want to finish with. I just put this out there, so I want to get people way too excited about Ryan Bergert, but I thought this was fascinating. One of the comments in this article from a Padres fan, I should point out, was very, very, very succinct, but made me go down a rabbit hole. His quote was, "Dang it, this article is giving me Corey Kluber vibes." I'm just gonna let that float out there, because Corey Kluber was a Padre in the minor leagues who was traded before he got to the major leagues for I believe the Padres got Ryan Ludwig in the deal. And this is 15 years ago, in 2010. It was a 3-way trade. But Corey Kluber might have been the best pitcher in baseball between 2014 and 2018. And I just suggest, if you got some free time, everybody, pull up his Baseball Savant page and compare it to Ryan Bergert's. Because Corey Kluber was the best pitcher in baseball. His average fastball velocity for that entire stretch was 92 to 93. Right, Bergert's is 93 to 94. With the passage of time and how we know fastballs keep going up, that they're about the same. The fastball wasn't elite, but his fastball. If you look at the place that his fastball was on the little the movement plot, he had a rising fastball, kind of looked like Bergert's, and he had. And this is hilarious. It's listed as a curveball, but it's a curveball that basically moves like a sweeper today, but with more movement than even Bergert's sweeper. I think we didn't have the term sweeper until like 3 years ago. I think that this would be called a sweeper today. And in fairness, Bergert's sweeper moves a lot horizontally. Kluber's moved like 4 or 5 inches more. So I don't want to, there's a limit to this comp, but I just thought.
So diet Corey Kluber. Or as he perfects the pitch, maybe he gets even
more. Well, that's something to shoot for. But you know what? Diet Corey Kluber would be a hell of a pitcher, because Corey Kluber was maybe the best pitcher in baseball for a time. I just thought, and hearing that from a Padres fan, and obviously they've because of the organization. I don't think AJ Preller was in charge of this. I can't even blame AJ for that trade. But they gave up a future number one starter for a deadline deal for a guy who could help them for 2 months. And the Guardians kind of knew what they were doing with Corey Kluber. Who was working for the Guardians? Oh, that's right. Brian Sweeney was working for the Guardians when Corey Kluber was over there.
Michael Chourio might even have been there as well, right?
He might have. That's a good question. I'm pretty sure Sweeney was there at least towards the tail end. I just want to make everybody unreasonably excited about what Ryan Bergert could be. That's a very much a best case scenario, but it's a scenario.
Yeah, I like it. I like where you're going there. All right, we'll talk about some of the other contributors that the Royals picked up at the deadline right after you hear from our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, proudly serving the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Locally owned and making parking lot problems disappear in Kansas City since 1994. Let Gann educate you about the most cost-effective way to solve your parking lot problems. With free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty, Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer and helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. Find Gann online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. David Starnes Allstate Insurance. Elevate your coverage, elevate your confidence, and drive worry-free. Covering all the important things in your world. Home, business, life, and even the fun stuff, as well as your motorcycle, boat, ATV, and you name it. Get with Dave, and he'll get you covered. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. Don't put those insurance needs off any longer. Get with Dave today. He'll give you peace of mind for the things in your life most important to you. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. All right, let's talk about the other guys real quick. Bailey Falter, Stephen Kolek, Adam Frazier, Ryan Grichuk, Mike Yastrzemski. What do you? I said Ryan Randall Grichuk. I don't know why I typed that. What do you make of what they've gotten for the rest of the bunch?
I mean, Falter is, the best I can say, the best grade I can give him is incomplete right now. Like, he's a work in progress. And look, it would not shock me if they non-tendered him at the end of the year, if they just feel like it didn't work out with him.
Or he was just here to facilitate the game until they could get some other guys up.
Exactly. I mean, the cost that they paid to get him was small enough that I'm not going to lose any sleep over it regardless. I think that for them, their perspective was worst case scenario, he fills innings, like you said, until we have better options. And we get a flyer and we get to look at him up close and see if we can fix him a little bit. So, and that point about him having the rising fastball, I mean, there are some things that they could work with there. So, we'll put him to the side. And Kolek's in AAA. I mean, I think, everything they get from him this season is a bonus, but I absolutely believe they see him as a part of the future. And as soon as 2026, it's just a matter of, can he start, or is he, his future destined to be in the bullpen, which would be fine. What I think, is interesting. I mean, we have to talk about like the hitters they picked up. I mean, maybe it's just a small sample size, but at some point we just have to tip our cap a little and be like, you know what? Maybe acquiring Adam Frazier wasn't the complete waste of time that we thought it was. Because
absolutely,
I mean, 2 for 4 today with a homer and a double. I don't know what I think he was hitting 317 with the Royals before that. So is he back up to 25 for 76, almost a 330 average with the Royals, slugging. Let's see if I can do the math on air. 36 for 76, 9 for 19. Okay, so about a 470 slug. He's worth almost a full win above replacement. Let's put it this way. He has been more valuable in the 4 weeks that he's been back with the Royals than he had been in a year and a half with the Royals plus the Pirates before they reacquired him. But given that, the number one reason they acquired him, it seemed to be for just the clubhouse influence. The fact that he's actually giving them good offense, at 2 positions where they were kind of desperate for good offense. Been a hell of an acquisition.
Yeah.
And then, that one was a surprise. Yaz is, he's been exactly what I hoped he would be. Do you realize he only has 8 hits as a member of the Royals? But he has 8 walks and of those 8 hits, he has 1 single, 4 doubles, and 3 homers. Like, that is, the early sabermetric, 1990s take and rake 3 true outcomes analyst that is me, the inner child that is inside me that just wants guys who get on base and slug. That's like the platonic ideal of a corner outfielder to me, the one that the Royals never, ever, ever had, because the Royals were exact antithesis of that, high batting averages and nothing else. This guy, that profile is valuable if you hit 200, which is good because he's only hitting like 210 or something since he joined the Royals, but an incredibly loud 210. I think he's taken to the leadoff spot perfectly. Apparently, Jonathan India's destiny was to be a cleanup hitter instead of a leadoff hitter, because he's just like game tying home run today. Like, apparently he's taken to the bottom of the order a lot better than, we took to the leadoff spot with the Royals. That's for sure. So, the knock-on benefits are very real. We said it at the time, but I mean, it feels even more true now. I mean, and Randall Grichuk's got a 733 OPS since he joined the Royals, and as a right-handed bat for a team that was really kind of desperate for some right-handed bat, thump off the bench, especially since, Marcana's on the IL and his bat died in like end of April. It's been an even better trade deadline than we thought. I mean, the only reason that there's still 12% to make the playoffs at all is because of some of those playoff, those acquisitions. And then Bergert and Kolek for next year, they're probably worth more for the future than all the prospects that the Royals gave up combined.
Yes, I would agree. Right now, it looks like another great trade deadline for JJ Picollo, and all the more reason to be confident in him moving forward. Confident in Jac Caglianone moving forward at the big league level. Does the 550, 591?
Say, what a week! What 5 days? I mean, we thought he was like overpowering Omaha when he was there the first time around. For those of you who have not seen his rehab assignment yet, because when we spoke last week, he hadn't gone out on rehab. He went 4 for 5 on Tuesday, 2 for 4 with the double on Thursday, 1 for 4 with a homer on Friday, 1 for 3 with a double and a walk yesterday, and then 3 for 4 with 2 doubles, a homer, and a walk today. He came up with the with the Storm Chasers down 11-10 in the bottom of the 8th inning today. He doubled, and then Carter Jensen hit a 2-run home run, and the Storm Chasers won. So kind of a nice little glimpse at the future there. Keep in mind, as the 12-11 score should tell you, offensive numbers at AAA are a little out of control. So it's don't put too much stock into that. But he hit 550 this week. His slugging average for the season in Omaha is up to 821. Like, I really see no reason why he shouldn't be back in the lineup tomorrow.
Well, what is it then? What is it? Like, he's gone back to beating up on the lesser pitchers.
He's not going to learn until he gets back to the major. Like, I feel like even if he's only doing this because these are crappy AAA pitchers, okay, he's proven he's got nothing left to learn from them. He was, in the lineup in Kansas City until he got hurt. He seems to be no longer hurt. I feel like he's just kind of wasting his time down there. And it's not like I'm not saying he should be replacing, Yastrzemski in the lineup. At this point, I think John Rave's
the guy who's going to go out.
Has been, has done as well as he could. And, a few glaring mistakes notwithstanding, has been, slightly above replacement level. And he's been valuable. And look, the rosters expand in 2 weeks. So you send John Rave down now, I would still imagine he'll be back in 2 weeks. We've talked about Michael Massey. At this point, Michael Massey stays down as long as he can, and I'm pretty sure he has an option. And I fully expect that if his rehab assignment has to come to an end, that the Royals will just option it, because he is not showing any signs of life with the bat at AAA. And it just makes no sense to bring him back if he can't prove that he's, superior to the AAA hitters that he's supposed to be dominating. So to me, I think Caglianone should be back in the lineup ASAP. Rave can go down to AAA. And in 2 weeks, maybe he comes back up. Maybe Michael Massey comes back up. Maybe you bring up another pitcher for the stretch drive. But I think if we can get Caglianone, and you just hope he doesn't hit anything like the 147 he did before. I mean, this was a mental reset for him as much as a physical reset. I think it was useful in that regard. He's presumably got his confidence back after getting the crap out of the ball against AAA pitching. And he doesn't have to carry the line. He was batting sixth before. He might bat seventh or eighth now. There's no reason to have him any higher than that. And just be like, you know what, just contribute a little bit. One good performance a day will be better than you were before and better than the guy you're replacing. And you hope you catch lightning in the bottle, because right now the Royals need a little variance. They need to risk a guy who might continue to be a 147 hitter. They need to take that risk, because if they stick with the safe option of John Rave, maybe they'll continue to play 500 or slightly better than 500 ball the rest of the way, in which case they'll finish it very comfortable 3 or 4 games out of a playoff spot. They need to take the chance that Jac Caglianone gets back in the lineup, they catch lightning in a bottle for a month, and they get really, really hot. And that's what they need right now. So I think he should be back in the lineup as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And I think it's got to come, because that's their best chance to if you're going to go to another level, it's that his power, he's ready to start laying off some of the pitches that were striking him out all the time. So we'll see.
Do you think he will be back tomorrow? I mean, do you think he'll be back that soon or this week?
No, I don't. I think there's things they want him to do, want him to work on, and right now he hadn't had a chance to do it. I do think there'll come a time very soon where they go, well, he's not getting the chance to do it here. I mean, like, if he's still swinging at the bad pitches and making contact and hitting it, then he needs the bad pitches. He needs to be swinging at making poor decisions that make him pay. But I mean, I think the question then becomes like, then it still comes down to, is him running into one every now and then better than John Ray being up? I think the answer will probably be yes.
Right.
So I think he will be up soon.
I think it's interesting, in those 5 games, he had 2 walks and 1 strikeout. That's also, and is as good as he has been all season. He has, his strikeout to walk ratio has never been like that.
Have you watched any of the games? Is he bad ball hitting?
I mean, I've seen the highlights, so I've seen what he's doing right. I can't say that the pitches he's hitting are generally in the strike zone. Yeah, okay. I mean, I don't think I've seen. I don't. I mean, some of them have been borderline pitches, but I mean, the pitches on the black are the pitches you have to hit in the major league. Yeah. So I haven't seen him, hitting home runs off of his shoe tops or anything like that. So it'll be interesting to see.
And speaking of further down in the minors, David Shields and Kendry Chourio. I want to talk about them. They're getting a lot of accolades. They're moving up on the Royals prospect list. The midseason, and ESPN put theirs out. What do you think right now of what the Royals have in David Shields and Kendry Chourio?
So I just wanted to highlight, we've talked about both of these guys a lot this year, but I wanted to highlight this quote because I do think it very succinctly sums up why we should be so excited about these guys. And this quote comes from Jim Callis, who's been covering prospects 30 plus years. He was with Baseball America forever, and then he's been with MLB Pipeline now for something like 15 or 20 years. This is his quote from a recent mailbag that he did 2 or 3 days ago. Chourio might be the best 17-year-old pitching prospect in baseball, and Shields could be the best 18-year-old mound prospect. That kind of sums it up. I mean, David Shields this week went out and faced, through 5 innings allowed, I think 1 hit, no walks. I want to say 7 strikeouts. And then the following day, Chourio took them out. And Chourio had basically coming off the worst start of his career, I guess, of his season. He gotten beaten up a little bit in his second start in A-ball. So this is his bounce back start. It was very interesting to see what he would do. What did he do? 15 up, 15 down. I mean, Shields went out and it was 16 up and 15 down. And then the kid who's a year younger than him one-ups him the next day. Between the two of them, they faced 31 batters this week, gave up a single, no walks, and struck out 11. And the older one is 18, the younger one is 17. I think what I would take from this, the odds that either one of these guys is going to be in the majors in 3 years, let alone making an impact, is still very, very small. But the thing about baseball nowadays is these guys are assets today, in the sense of if the Royals have the opportunity to make some sort of blockbuster trade to acquire a young club-controlled hitter this offseason, these 2 pitchers make that a possibility that it wasn't there before. Teams value these types of assets now a lot more than maybe 10 or certainly 20 years ago. So if you have a 17 or 18-year-old phenom, he has value right now. I mean, Leo DeVries, we just saw, got traded at the deadline. He's 18 years old in A-ball, and he got traded for one of the best left-handed relievers in the game in Mason Miller. And most people think that the Padres were stupid to make that trade, myself included. So the point is, these are names to know, not just for the future, but potentially because they could be part of something big that the Royals do. And I'm not advocating for that. Obviously, it depends on what's out there. And is that something you really want to do? If the Royals believe these guys are going to be number one starters, don't trade them. If the Royals think that these guys are going to be number three starters and the hype is exceeding the reality and they can get, an impact outfielder for 2026, the fact that these guys are in the system today may end up having an impact sooner than you would think from the fact that it's a 17 or 18-year-old kid.
Yeah. Okay. Let's leave with this. 7 games, 4 at home against Texas, 3 at Detroit. What do they do this week? What's the success? What do you think they'll do?
I mean, the thing is they have to go 4-3 just to hold serve, right? Like 4-3, and I don't think, their odds are going to change much one way or the other. They have to start stealing games, one a week. So really 5-2, if they go 5-2 this week, you and I will sit down next week and I think we'll be in a much better headspace. So one of the teams that's ahead of them will go 3-4, right? I mean, if not worse. And 3-4, and they go 5. That's a 2-game. You're making up 2 games, and suddenly you're not 4 games out. You're 2.5 games out with 5 weeks to go. Then you can start to dream a little bit more, right? So I'm really hoping for 5-2. I haven't looked to see if they're going to face Tarek Skubal, but on the other hand, they're 2-0 when Tarek Skubal starts against them this year. So, I mean, they've had their share of games they've pulled out, that maybe they shouldn't have won too. But yeah, they need to go 5-2, 4-3. Okay, 3-4, then we might be writing their obituary pretty soon.
Right, but what are you predicting?
I'm predicting 4-3 because this team has just shown a maddening ability to tease us. They are just staying, they're playing just well enough to make us think it could have happened, but probably won't. That's kind of the story of the last 3 months.
Yeah, and if they can just kick it down the road, then they get 3 with the White Sox, or coming home for 3 with Detroit, 3 with the Angels, 3 with the Twins. The Angels and Twins could just fall on their sword and go away. That starts to make that schedule look a lot better. So.
Yeah, that seems too easy. I don't expect that to happen, but
no, it hasn't happened to this point.
Yeah,
that's for sure. Listen, you can always support the Kaufman Corner podcast by supporting our great sponsors like David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. You can give Dave and his crew a call at 816-781-7331. Visit them online or stop into any of their locations, including North Kansas City, Liberty, and Branson, Missouri. David Starnes, Allstate Insurance. Gain Asphalt and Concrete has proudly served the greater Kansas City area. Nationally recognized full service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, locally owned and operated, making parking lot problems disappear in KC since 1994. Every project comes with a written warranty, whether it's the most simple striping, painting, bumper, signage, or completely building a brand new lot, no matter how big your business is. Gann Asphalt and Concrete has been handling those jobs for 30 years in Kansas City. One contractor, all things parking lot. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Find them online at gannasphalt.com. And Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers is Northland Injury Law. Serving KC for more than 40 years, voted KC's #1 accident lawyers. If you've been hurt in an accident, any kind of accident, whether it's a work accident, falls, other personal injuries, text HURT 22222. That's text HURT, H-U-R-T, to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. For the good Dr. Rany Jazayerli, I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here on the Kaufman Corner podcast.